Okay, my dear friends, we are continuing on our long series of lectures on tuberculosis, and today will be the last lecture on tuberculosis. Last time we went through a large portion of how we would diagnose a case of tuberculosis, or rather we had two lectures simultaneously, one after the other, and then so we talked about how National Tuberculosis Control Program was being followed, what are the changes, how the National Tuberculosis Elimination Program has come on now, and how we are now going to tackle tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is a problem in our country, and we require that we should be able to diagnose as many cases as possible and put them on treatment. The biggest problem in tuberculosis treatment has always been loss to follow-up, loss to every person who has tuberculosis, symptoms of tuberculosis. What happens is that initially there is a vast degree of improvement in the patient, and once the improvement in the patient takes place, the patient then tends to stop treatment. Long-term treatment was there earlier, which was there for 12 to 18 months, which was cut down to a direct observed treatment short course, which was there for 6 months. Because of people dropping out, we have a large number of cases which are now becoming resistant to multiple drugs, what we called multi-drug resistant tuberculosis or rifampicin resistant tuberculosis. And then even those drugs which were in the second line, we are having people who are resistant to that, and we have today what we call the extremely drug resistant XDR-TB. Now, how do we handle MDR and XDR-TB? We already talked about how we handled MDR-TB. I think last slides of my last lecture were on how we will handle MDR-TB and how second line drugs are to be used. The complete guidelines I had given you. So today we will keep talking mainly about XDR-TB, and we will be also talking about what is the latest as far as the tuberculosis report of our country is concerned. This portion, that is the second portion of my lecture, will not be available in any book. It is, if you would like to read about it, please read the Government of India release which is there on the tuberculosis, and this booklet was released in 2020. So it will be the latest figures which you can note down. Please remember to note it down, it will come useful for your exams. So first and foremost, let's talk about XDR-TB. So when we have patients who are not responding to various lines of therapy, whether it be the MDR, whether it be the standard line of therapy or the MDR-TB, which is the second line drugs, then we have to resort to use of two drugs which we are now using, bedaquiline and delamine. We will talk about it in a little bit of detail, not much, little bit of detail. I suppose when the respiratory medicine people talk to you, they will talk to you in detail, and also you'll be taught in medicine. So the bedaquiline targets the mycobacterial ATP synthase, and it is a bactericidal drug which is there, and so it's an excellent drug. We must not try and not use it unnecessarily. It should be reserved only and only for XDR-TB cases. The extended half-life can be present in the blood for about 5.5 months, and the contraindications are that those individuals who are on bedaquiline should be above 18 years of age. This ruling may change in the near future because of this. So those people can be put on bedaquiline, or MDR or RRTB, which is there with resistance to second line injectables which are there. So those people also, or we actually put them into the group of XDR-TB, which are resistant to fluoroquinolones and second line resistant, and or so these are various combinations of the XDR-TB, any fluoroquinolone, or all second line injectables, or any second line injectable. So we can use them in various categories. We have categorized it like this because this is how the reports are sent. Ultimately, reporting is very, very important because we need to have data to know exactly what is the level of resistance which is present in our country, how we can challenge this resistance and get people treated for this particular disease. So the various levels of failure which are possible, XDR-TB, any fluoroquinolones or any second line injectables is resistant to that, or treatment failures for MDR-TB, all these people can be put on a schedule of bedaquiline. Then what do? The treatment schedule is for week 0 to 2, we put them on 400 milligrams daily for 7 days. Please remember, nowadays we prefer to put everybody on daily, though from 3 to 24 weeks we will be putting these people on thrice a week. But otherwise, treatment in National Tuberculosis Elimination Program has become a daily treatment, and it is now a fixed dose combination, FDCs, fixed dose combinations. So you have multiples of those tablets being taken. So that is a classical change which has come with National Tuberculosis Elimination Program. The week 3 to 24, you can give 200 milligram thrice a week, at least 44 hours between two doses. Why do we say 44 or 48 hours between two doses? Is if you look at how bedaquiline acts, you will realize it. Please read up, and we would like to give 200 milligram thrice a week so that we have the levels of bedaquiline maintained in the system. Week 25 to end of treatment, you continue only the second line drugs as per NTEP, not RNTCP, NTEP guidelines. So NTEP, the word NTEP has come on only at the end of 2019, or rather in 2020. So that's the reason why many of my slides will continue to show RNTCP. I'm an old teacher, so all these slides are old slides which keep getting modified. Now, there's another lot of individuals who give problem because many of our drugs which are there would be hepatotoxic. So, what do we do with treatment with of patients with liver disorder? So, what we have to look at is we do the normal SGOT, SGPT, that is serum alanine aminotransferase levels. If it is checked for, and if it is 3 times the normal before initiation of treatment. Always remember, when we are looking at hepatic enzymes, please do not go in for a single reading. One single reading does not give you a very good picture of how the hepatic system is functioning. Always look at an increase in titer. So, if at the beginning of the treatment to the time that you have seen the values now, you find that there is a 3 times increase which is there, then you are looking at a person who has got hepatotoxicity due to tuberculosis drugs. So the management then will contain so you would like to then decrease the hepatotoxic drugs. So HRE for 9 months, or HRE plus streptomycin for 2 months, followed by HR for 7 months, and HEZ for 6 to 9 months. What you're trying to do is give as less of that particular hepatotoxic drug as possible. So we look at staggering things as far as possible. We would like to give all the drugs, but we cannot give, so we would like to stagger drugs. So otherwise we use one hepatotoxic drug, that is we use HNE plus streptomycin for 2 months, followed by isoniazid and ethambutol for 10 months. Otherwise, we go in for no hepatotoxic drugs. There we use HE plus fluoroquinolone for 18 to 24 months. After that, we start the first line ATT can be started off, and as we start this ATT, now this is in case of those people who are on ART. In those with the HIV, we have to start the ATT first, and then the ART is to be started as soon as TB treatment is tolerated, between 2 weeks to 2 months. So ART may require to be stopped in between so that ATT is started off. Those who are not on ART but who are HIV positive, we can start them on a combination of tenofovir, lamivudine and effervinase. Now, the next is our drug Delamind. Delamind is a new drug which we are introducing, not yet introduced in the complete country. There are few states which have started off Delamind. Telangana does not come in the state which has started Delamind, but by the time you all pass out, I suppose Delamind will be used. It's used as 50 milligrams per day, and it is given to adults, again adults above 18 years, including patients living with HIV. Given to MDR TB, rifampicin resistant TB, who are resistant to all fluoroquinolones or any of the second line injectables. Given to XDR TB patients and mixed pattern drug resistant tuberculosis patients. You can give it to them. I will not go into details about Delamind because we are it is still being observed as to how it is effective in Indian population, and then it will be possibly given to the rest of the country. It's now at the present moment being used only in a few states. Now, the next is what we need to discuss is about the 99 dot strategy. So what happens, I've always been talking to you, right through my lectures on tuberculosis, I've been mentioning that people drop out of treatment. And this is something which we need to curb. And how can we stop it? Unless and until we keep on coaxing the individual to take the treatment. We have got DOTS providers, but these DOTS providers many a time are not that persuasive as is necessary. So we need to have a system by which we monitor these people, and so this is done by a 99 dot strategy. You've got strips. I told you the strip is given to the individual, and when the patient finishes off this particular strip, he has to go back to the DOTS provider or to any DOTS agency which is there, give back this strip, empty strip, and get a new strip. Now, in one of these places or one or more of these places where in the strip is a printed number. So what this individual has to do is to make a call on that number in order to ensure that he is then registered as continuing his treatment. So he does not know what the number is. The number which was there in the previous pack may not be there in this pack, and which tablet it is on is also not known. So he is supposed to be taking the complete course of treatment. He will come across the number Sunday, and on that day he is supposed to ring up this particular number. So there is an agency which has been set up which monitors the patients and is able to decide as to whether this individual has been taking regularly the tablet, whether he is ringing up in time or not. It's a very interesting. Central TB Division in collaboration with the National Informatics Center has undertaken the initiative to develop a case-based and web-based application called NICTION. Now this registers all cases of tuberculosis. You see, the biggest problem was always and will remain to be the private practitioners who treat tuberculosis, and the patient takes a treatment for 1 month, takes a treatment 2 months, becomes a little better, and then stops treatment. Now, some of these people from the private practitioner then go to the government agencies. Can we follow them up? Can we follow up that they are taking a complete course of treatment? What is the dropouts in our complete country? What is the dropout in Telangana? All these can be made out from the Nikshay system which is there. So it's a master management of all the patients in our country. You have details of all patients, user details. The TB patient is registered, and this user details, what is there is actually the user details is the doctors who are registering the patients in the user details of those. Now TB patients who are there are registered and their diagnosis is mentioned, and various some other features which are there. Also, who is the dot provider, so that if the person drops out, the dot provider can be contacted to tell people, come on, now please wake up and go and see where this patient, why is he not taking treatment? The HIV status of the patient is mentioned, and the patient is followed up. You see, the 99 dots is also connected to the Nikshay system. So the complete thing is connected, and then it is seen whether any dropout is taking place as far as the treatment of the patient is concerned. Also, it is very useful for contact tracing. You have patient open case who is there, so we are able to see who are his contacts, and whether we have patients, newly come patients, are they due to some contacts or otherwise, and also those people who are in contact whom we put on chemoprophylaxis, are they developing the disease or not? The components also we mention in that whether what is the CBNAT result, what is the solid and liquid culture results, what is the drug sensitivity test results, or the line probe assay results which are there. All these things, everything is there in the system. Then there is a separate registration for the drug resistant tuberculosis. From the same system, you take out drug resistant tuberculosis with the details. It will be the excellent registry which is there of tuberculosis. We don't have a registry for tuberculosis today. This is an excellent registry for tuberculosis. A lot of data will come out of it, and we will be able to possibly monitor tuberculosis and come to elimination of tuberculosis through this Nikshay system. Referral of patients is done, transfer of patients like from a private practitioner to a government or government to a private practitioner. Private health facilities registration in tuberculosis are being separately. Nikshay can be used from a mobile application also. The notification can be done from there. And then, as I mentioned, it is linked to the 99 system. So SMS alerts come to the patient for his treatment, for his reviews, for various other things which are there. SMS alerts come to the DOTS provider, SMS alerts come to the doctor. So there are a lot of things which are there in the Nikshay system. We hope that it will function well, and we'll be able to eliminate TB. Now the TB report 2020. This is if you search the net, TB report 2020, you will get the complete booklet. It's a very large booklet. I have tried to just summarize the thing in 4-5 slides. So this is the absolute goat of the TB report 2020. You can note down these figures, very very important figures which are there in this. The National Strategic Plan 2017 to 2025, that is the basis of changing our treatment guidelines, which the treatment guidelines were changed because of the National Strategic Plan, where we had CBNATs coming in various places. Now with the COVID thing coming, and we will have many more places where investigation will be possible once COVID goes away. So we'll have numerous places where we'll be able to do investigations for tuberculosis, where possibly the COVID facilities will then be taken over by the tuberculosis system, and we should be able to then end tuberculosis fast. We had an End Tuberculosis Summit in March 2018 at Delhi. And there it was, we found that if we follow the strategic plan well, we should be able to reach our SDG goal of elimination of tuberculosis which was the SDG goal was of 2030, we should be able to end tuberculosis by 2025. End tuberculosis does not mean eradication of tuberculosis. End tuberculosis in our country would be elimination of tuberculosis. So elimination means that we have reached a particular point where it no longer remains a public health problem. That is the meaning of elimination. So please remember that we are not looking at eradication of the disease, we are looking at elimination of the disease. And like various other diseases which we have managed to eliminate, we will try and eliminate tuberculosis also. The Nikshay program per se has now got a registration of 24.04 lakh patients, and the plus point is that out of the 6.7 lakh are from the private sector. Wonderful news for that, because of the fact that no private practitioners were earlier registering, no private practitioner wanted to enter data. But there are some incentives which have been given by the government, and because of those incentives and because of motivation to the private sector, 6.7 lakh patients have been registered. Now, we have 22.7 lakh patients are on the first line of treatment. So you can imagine how many are on the rest of the treatment. There are some new programs which have also been introduced by the government, direct transfer benefits which have been introduced, which are, one is the Nikshay Poshan Yojana. Now, Nikshay Poshan Yojana gives some money directly to patients so that they can look after their food, their nutrition. You see, tuberculosis or any other disease, you require your immune system to develop well. If your immune system is dependent on the amount of food that you take, especially your proteins, so we require that patient should take food, but if he doesn't have money, with tuberculosis he loses his job also. So how does he then manage? So that's the reason why the government is giving, it may be a very small amount of 500 rupees, but at least it is some amount. There are various state governments who have added on to this particular amount. Incentive to the treatment supporters is also there. We have like DOTS providers and DOTS supporters, treatment supporters who are there. Some incentive has been given to a tune of about 462 crore rupees. Notification incentive to the private providers, as I said, private providers or private doctors who are there. Nowadays, nobody does anything without some incentive coming on. So the government decided, okay, even if it is doctors, let's give them some sort of money. So some notification incentive is given to the private providers. This keeps on changing from time to time. Then there is, in the tribal areas, people who are unable to come for and take treatment. So free transport facilities have been provided to tribals. Also, there has been a systematic mapping which has been taking place. We have tried to map where are the high-risk group, where are the places. See, all the people who are people living with HIV, they are high risk. All the people who are living in overcrowded areas are at higher risk. So these are the places, they have mapped out these places so that we can provide more health facilities in these places. And what is being done is, we have a large number of people in the community who are tuberculosis and not yet been seen by any physician. So there has been a house-to-house sort of screening, which many medical colleges have undertaken, including our college, in which a systematic screening has taken place of 27.74 crore people with 337 districts and 23 states were involved in generally screening through various villages, asking whether any individual with fever or cough, any person with a cough, his sputum samples were taken right from the house and they were sent for examination. So a lot of work is going on. Actually, that comes to the second thing which I'm mentioning, active case finding. Active case finding was done. What is the difference between active and passive? Passive would be, I am sitting in my clinic, if the patient comes to me, I see the patient. Active is I go into the community, I ask whether the patient is, whether there is any person with fever, any person with cough, if the cough has got sputum, okay, take the sputum, send it for sputum examination. Like that, we are in the active case finding, they have detected 65,958 cases have been detected. Very good work being done. What are the lab facilities? You see, lab facilities earlier were, there used to be one national referral laboratory, and they used to be just the microscopy centers. But we started building up on it. So that now there are 6 national referral labs, 31 intermediate referral labs, 50 certified labs for liquid culture and drug sensitivity tests. So we are building upon capability which is there. A lot of capability is coming in so that people can send. Mostly there are referral labs are there in every state today, almost every state today. The national referral labs, of course, are 6 in number only, but the intermediate referral labs are available. And liquid culture and drug sensitivity tests also are now available in every state. Now there are designated microscopy centers which are there, which are located mainly at PHCs and CHCs. So some of the PHCs and CHCs have been designated as microscopy centers where we can, where the staining of slides can be done. And to supervise the microscopy center, there are supervisors who are there. We will, I think, maybe mention somewhere how many supervisors and all will come possibly. There are 15 additional TB containment labs which have been made with liquid culture facilities from a global fund grant which is available with the government. So 15 additional labs which are there. We've got 50 certified labs. That's another of these 15 containment labs with liquid culture. 8 TB cure and drug sensitivity labs have been made through private and public partnership which is there. 8 of them have come out. Now, as I was telling you, CBNAT facilities have started off since the year 2017 onwards. We've been starting CBNAT facilities. So CBNAT facilities, there are 1,180 CBNAT facilities. This figure is going to change dramatically once we have the COVID. We finish off with tackling COVID. So there were 35.31 lakh tests which have been done, but we will have now more and more CBNAT and various other PCR facilities which will be available. Lab info systems and linking of the labs with Nikshay has been carried out. 5 whole genomes sequencing facilities have been made. 1 pyro sequencing facility has been created. There are 711 drug-resistant tuberculosis centers across the country. 154 nodal drug-resistant tuberculosis centers out of the 711. 154 are nodal drug-resistant tuberculosis centers. There are 66,359 MDR and rifampicin resistant cases which are there. So let us not accept that it is only so many. There will be many more which possibly will come up soon. So India adopted the community's rights and gender tools developed by the Stop TB Partnership. So the Stop TB Partnership is there with various governments, and these from there are guidelines which are there for communities' rights and gender equality which is there. So this has resulted in equitable rights-based TB service. Basically what we're trying to say is that every person who needs tuberculosis should get tuberculosis treatment. So it should not be only the rich who are getting it. So equitable rights should be available for all TB patients. Also, the problem of gender-specific programs which are there. If it is necessary that we have gender-specific programs, especially for maybe not for pulmonary tuberculosis, but for various other tuberculosis, which is the urogenital tuberculosis, we may require a gender-specific programs. There are TB forums which have been set up which discuss about tuberculosis, and most of these TB forums have TB survivors. We call them TB survivors or TB champions. They are people who have suffered from tuberculosis, who have come out of after a long-term treatment, and they are the ones who motivate others to continue treatment rather than give it up in between. These TB survivors are being given training themselves as to how to propagate the message, and so capacity building of the TB survivors. Some of them have been used even not only for lectures, but even in the program they have been used as supervisors for lab services or various other things which are there. There is a requirement of a multi-sectorial approach, as you may realize, because as such tuberculosis cannot be treated only by the doctor. You require the person to take good nutrition. You require that various employers should give him leave when he is extremely sick. So it's all a multi-sectorial approach. There are various things which are involved. So we will leave it at that. It's a very multi-sectorial approach which is required. Also, the samples which are there, like for example, we have sputum samples. These samples must reach the laboratory in time, otherwise they will dry up and there will be nothing which will be able to be seen from them. So from the microscopy centers, they are supposed to be sent to various liquid culture medium centers or various other nodal agency. All this transport network which has been there has been expanded by the government. There are other various regimes which are being worked upon. Injection-free regime for all older regimen for MDR-TB or RR-TB which is there. Now, Delamint which is there, as I mentioned in the slide before, you can give it only for people above 18 years, but they are now trying to give it to the 6 to 17-year-old age group. Again, same as Bedaquiline, they are trying to give it to 6 to 17-year-old age group and see whether there is any major side effects in the Indian subcontinent. All medical colleges, oh yes, people will smile when we hear this. All medical colleges should have facilities for treating MDR-TB. So we must have facilities for culture, we must have facilities for proper investigation, and we must have facilities for treating MDR tuberculosis. So your college also is required to have facilities for MDR. 94% of people living with HIV screened in ART centers had tuberculosis. 94%. You see, almost everyone who had HIV had tuberculosis. So it's very important that whenever a patient is diagnosed as HIV positive, he requires to be put on chemotherapy for tuberculosis, for preventive chemotherapy. So that has been started. 3 lakh PLHIV cases, they have started preventive TB therapy. Just a short revision on the organization, the slight modifications we might like to note down. The Central TB Organization, the DDG tuberculosis, which was there. Then you have National Tuberculosis Institute at Bangalore, and we have various national level institutes. The National Institute of Tuberculosis and Respiratory Diseases at Delhi, National Institute of Research in Tuberculosis at Chennai, and very close to Chennai we have Chengalpet, where we had what study? Chengalpet, we had the BCG study which was carried out and brought about very important conclusions resulting in universal BCG vaccination being done for children, despite the fact that BCG has no role in adult tuberculosis. However, it is beneficial in childhood tuberculosis, so that's the reason why it's being given. Jalma is basically a leprosy institute, but the National Jalma Institute is also a nodal agency for tuberculosis. Bhopal Memorial Hospital and Research Center and Regional Medical Research Center Bhubaneswar These are the other two centers which are very important centers of excellence which we have. At the state level, we have a state tuberculosis officer and a state tuberculosis training. Under the state training tuberculosis officer, we have the state tuberculosis training and demo center, and where all the training and demonstrations are done. We require capacity building, so a lot of people have to be trained and sent into the community, right from ASHA worker till the doctor. State drugstore, which deals with all the medicines, very important component of our program. District, the crux of the one which really is one of the most peripheral centers is the district tuberculosis center, which controls almost everything. District tuberculosis center, and under the district tuberculosis center you have got TB units where you have a MO tuberculosis, and he may be the MO PHC who is there. So that's the reason why we say 1 per 1.5 to 2.5 lakh. So with this acute shortage of medical officers and PHCs, you might find that you have an MOTB for 2.5 lakh population. And then you have the senior TB treatment supervisor and the senior TB lab supervisor, both being one looking after the treatment and follow-up, loss to follow-up, other looking at lab services. And it is what is required is designated microscopy center for every 1 lakh population. The government says that they have achieved that. Well, just to conclude, last slide of tuberculosis. I hope tuberculosis toxicity has not taken place, but we have this last slide which really wants to emphasize that tuberculosis is a silent and global emergency. The best method to control it is early diagnosis and prompt treatment. DOTS is there to ensure is required so that you have compliance and cure. Nowadays we move to daily regimen, and so the chances of dropouts are less. We have the NICSHE program which is monitoring all this thing, and we have checks and balances through the 99 DOT program which is there. We must improve the health of the patient through a comprehensive method, not only by treatment but also providing food through the NICSHE Poshan Yojana which is there. So we must look at that. So generation of public awareness is necessary, which will go a long way in the control of tuberculosis. Thank you. You can change this word RNTCP with NDEP. Thank you. So please read up that 2020. Okay.